16 when this happened. It was summer, school was out, and my parents were hardly ever home because of work. My little sister was staying with our grandma, so I had the house to myself. I didn't really want to be alone that night, so I called a couple friends to come hang out. While I waited for them to show up, I went upstairs to my room and left the girls in the living room. As soon as I stepped into my terrible feeling, like something heavy just dropped into the pit of my stomach. It felt like I was being watched. Now keep in mind, I was completely alone upstairs. Still, I tried to shake it off, figured it was just my imagination running wild. I walked into my bathroom, and that's when the panic really kicked in. All my hair stuff, my jewelry, everything was scattered across the floor. And the window? Wide open. My first thought. Someone broke in. I didn't waste any time. I ran straight to my dad's closet, grabbed his rifle, and hid behind the couch in the living room. I stayed there for what felt like forever, at least 30 minutes. Eventually, I convinced myself I must have left the window open and the wind knocked everything down. I was calming down a bit when someone knocked on the front door. Instant relief. I thought, finally, my friends are here. I ran to open it. But no one was there. I slammed the door shut and locked it immediately. My heart was racing all over again. Was someone messing with me? Or, was it something else? Just as I was pulling my phone out to call someone, I heard a laugh, soft and faint, coming from upstairs. It sounded like a little girl. I froze. I just sat there listening. It was so quiet and so wrong. In every horror movie I'd ever seen, that kind of laugh means get out now. Then, just like that, the laughter stopped. I didn't even get the chance to catch my breath before a loud crash came from the kitchen. Every pot and pan had fallen from the rack and hit the floor. I was too scared to move. That's when I heard the voice. Right behind me. A little girl whispering. Help me. I spun around so fast I thought I broke my neck. And there she was. A little girl. Blood-soaked white dress. Just standing there. I didn't wait. I bolted. I ran out of that house and didn't look back, not once. I stayed outside until my friends finally pulled up, and then I went straight to my friend Shala's place. I never stepped foot in that house again. Ever. I moved out. I work as a teaching assistant now, but this happened years ago, 2013, to be exact, when I was 18 and working as a night support worker in a care home. It was an old house, massive. 5 bedrooms, 2 lounges, a study, a games room, and a kitchen that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. There was also a huge back garden that led into acres of woods, and at the edge of the garden stood a summer house we used as an activity room. At the time, I was working the waking night shift, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., responsible for checking on the residents and getting cleaning done before the day staff arrived. The house was home to teenagers and young adults with autism, brain damage, and behavioral challenges. It was quiet most nights, until it wasn't. James, let's call him that, was one of the residents. Mid-20s, autistic, not very big, but deceptively strong. He had simple, broken speech like, James make breakfast, or, James go outside. Funny guy when he was in a good mood, but when he wasn't, things got dangerous. He once threw a staff member through a patio door just because she forgot to cool down his tea. One night around 11, James got up to make a drink. I stood nearby just to be safe. He went back to bed without fuss. I gave it 15 minutes, watched his door, then carried on with my cleaning. Around 1 a.m., I was mopping the living room floor, right below his room, when I heard a heavy thud from upstairs. I figured James had dropped something, so I went up and knocked. Just as I was reaching for the key, he opened the door. Eyes half shut. Calm. Gave me a thumbs up, his way of saying, I'm okay. So I let it go. An hour later, another bang. This time from the room above the kitchen. Only, that room was empty. It was the spare room. Locked. Used for storage. And no alarms had gone off. That's the thing, with our residence, every bedroom door was rigged with a silent alarm. Any time someone left their room, the monitor I carried would buzz and blink with a room number. But nothing had gone off. I checked the spare room just in case. Still locked. Empty. Weird, but I got on with it. The following night, I walked in just before 10 p.m. and immediately knew something was wrong. James was at the bottom of the stairs, covering his ears, humming loudly. 3 staff members were trying to calm him down. When they asked what was wrong, he kept repeating the same thing. Sarah. Little girl. Sarah. Little girl. We'd never heard him say that before. The others brushed it off, maybe something he saw on TV. After the sleep-in staff went upstairs, I got back to my usual routine. By 1 a.m., I was doing room checks. The hallway light was off, which was unusual. As I turned the corner near James' room to switch it back on, I stopped. James was just standing there in the dark. Completely naked, pressed into the corner, his eyes wide open. As wide as they could go. I asked softly, James. You okay? He said nothing. Then, as I reached for the light switch, he screamed. A blood-curdling, full-body scream. He started slapping himself, hard. The sleep-in staff rushed out to help. We calmed him down, got him into bed. I had 4 days off after that. Thank God. But when I came back, the house manager told me things had gotten worse. James had been staring out the back window for hours at a time, whispering. Little girl, where are you, little girl? No one had any idea where he picked it up from. Then, around 3 a.m. that night, the alarm on my monitor buzzed. Room 5. The spare room. Thing is, that door was always locked. I went up to check and found it open. James was inside. Standing there. In the dark. Whispering. Where are you, where are you? I touched his shoulder. Let's go back to bed, mate. He turned and walked out without a fight. I locked the room behind us. But as soon as the lock clicked, he turned back and screamed. Oh no. He started pounding on the door with both fists, crying. At that exact moment, my alarm buzzed again. Front door. Open. Impossible. Only 2 people had keys, me and the house manager. And that door had 4 locks. 2 keys. 2 ID cards. I ran down. The door was wide open. No wind. No one outside. I locked it immediately and did a full sweep of the house. Everyone was still asleep. Nothing else out of place. The next night, around 2 a.m., another resident, Connor, got up, panicked. Said someone was tapping on his window. Thing is, his room was on the 3rd floor. At least 25 feet up. I reassured him, checked the window. It was locked, sealed. No sign of tampering. But then, we heard footsteps. On the landing, right outside his room. Connor froze. Is he back? Who? I asked. He stared past me. Tell him to go away. I turned to look. No one was there. I left his bedside lamp on and stepped outside to gather myself. It was below freezing, but I needed the air. When I came back in, I washed my coffee mug and put it away. Then I noticed something. The drawer where we kept the sharp knives, locked at all times, was slightly open. One knife was missing. I woke the sleep-in staff. We searched the entire house. Nothing. By 5:30 a.m., the alarm buzzed again. Room 5. I went up. Still locked. I unlocked it, turned on the light. And I'll never forget what I saw. The bed had been moved. The wardrobe doors were wide open. Nails and screws scattered across the floor. And in the center of the room, laid out deliberately, were an old baby doll, faded and cracked. A simple gold bracelet, tarnished with age. And the missing kitchen knife. We left everything as it was and reported it to the manager that morning. No one ever claimed the bracelet. The doll and bracelet were donated to a charity shop shortly after. After that, James stopped talking about the little girl. He didn't wake in the night. No more screaming. No more whispers. Nothing. I still don't know what happened. Maybe it was just a perfect storm, autism, a strange old house, and too much caffeine. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that doll. That bracelet. And I wonder. What if it wasn't just James? What if someone, really was in that house? I'm 16 now, and I used to be the kind of person who didn't believe in ghosts. Like at all. I thought all that paranormal stuff was fake or overhyped. That changed one weekend. I was hanging out with my two best friends at the time, Delaney and Julia. We were bored, home alone at Delaney's house, and had nothing to do. One of us, can't remember who, had the idea to drive around some old country roads and check out abandoned buildings. We live way out in the sticks. It's all woods and farmland, so there are plenty of rundown tobacco barns and empty houses scattered around. The first two places we visited were harmless. Took some pictures, messed around, just typical teenage boredom. Then we found it. An old, overgrown driveway that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. No houses nearby, no traffic, just silence. Julia immediately said, "Something's not right about this place." It wasn't even about trespassing, she just had bad vibes. Delaney and I pushed back. We were curious, and a little reckless. So we went anyway. We drove down the driveway for a while, it went way back into the woods. Eventually, we found a little clearing and parked. In the distance, we could see an old abandoned house. That's when the weirdness started. Before we even got out of the truck, the front parking sensor started going off. Then the back one did. It was like something, or someone, was walking around the vehicle. But we were in a wide open clearing. There was nothing nearby. The sensors shouldn't have gone off at all. Delaney and Julia were creeped out, but I brushed it off. Looking back, I really shouldn't have. We got out and started walking toward the house. I took the lead, probably trying to show off. My friends were behind me, keeping their distance. I wasn't scared, until I saw her. Peeking out from the corner of the house was a woman. Pale skin, tangled hair, and a colonial-style dress, like she was straight out of the 1700s. She looked me dead in the eyes, and slowly brought her finger to her lips. Shoo. Loud. Clear. Like she was trying to keep me quiet. In that moment, I felt something I've never felt before. Every part of me shut down, like all my sense of safety, my confidence, even happiness, gone. My chest tightened. I started crying on the spot. I knew she wasn't human. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. I turned back and screamed, "Run!" We all took off. Somewhere along the way, my phone flew out of my pocket. I didn't even stop to pick it up. Julia told me afterward and I was like, "Leave it. And listen, I never leave my phone. Ever. That's how you know I was serious. We got back to the truck, but it was locked. Delaney reached into her pocket for the keys, gone. Julia checked hers, her phone was missing too. It felt like something wanted to trap us there. Delaney ended up running back toward the house. She found both our phones, and her keys, lying in the dirt. All of that stuff had been deep in our pockets. There's no way they just fell out. We jumped in the truck and peeled out of there, flying back to her place. Later, we tried to process what happened. I told them everything I saw, especially the woman, the shush, her eyes. They didn't see her. They didn't hear the shush. For a second, I thought they didn't believe me. But Julia looked at me and said, "The look on your face, the way you were crying." I knew we had to run. We later found out that there had been a few reported ghost sightings on that same road. I haven't gone back since. And I don't mess around with ghosts anymore. Look, I ain't no writer. I'm just a guy with a busted laptop, stolen Wi-Fi from upstairs, and a couple cans of beans to last the week. But I gotta get this out, even if no one reads it. Even if they do and just call me crazy. I used to think I was just unlucky. Now I think maybe I was marked. Anyway. Back in 2016, I got signed on to this government work re-entry program. That's just code for, we'll give you a badge and a broom, and if you don't screw up, we might not let you starve. No benefits, no dignity, just a stipend and a schedule. I'd burned every bridge before that, dropped out in 10th grade, no trade skills, no support system. My social worker said this was my last chance. Only reason I agreed was because the alternative was sleeping under an overpass again. They placed me on janitorial duty in this giant federal archives complex buried in eastern Oregon. Cold War bunker type stuff. Big concrete tomb. 4 levels underground, no sunlight, no people, just long corridors lined with filing cabinets full of dead names. They stuck me on, sub-level 3, said it was the quietest. It was more like forgotten. First few nights were uneventful. I did what I was told, swept the aisles, checked for leaks, avoided the dark corners. I kept my head down and didn't talk to the night security guy upstairs unless I absolutely had to. Morales, I think his name was. Ex-cop type. Didn't like questions. Then the elevator shaft started humming. At first I thought it was just bad wiring, or old pipes. But this hum wasn't mechanical. It was low, weirdly rhythmic. Like it had a breath. And some nights, it came with a voice. Just one word, over and over. Down. I asked Morales about it once. He just told me, you hear things that deep down. Concrete does weird shit to sound. He didn't look me in the eye when he said it. On my 8th night, everything went sideways. I was doing my rounds when I passed by the old service elevator. Thing had been sealed up with rusted metal mesh and a "Do Not Operate" sign probably older than me. And behind that mesh, something flickered. A dim orange glow. Like firelight, but heavy. Thick. And in the middle of it, a silhouette. Real still. Slouched. Its face turned toward the wall like it was ashamed to be seen. I froze. Then it moved. Didn't turn. Didn't walk. It just shifted. Like a glitch. Like it blinked out of one spot and reappeared an inch to the left. Closer. I bolted. Ran straight upstairs, heart kicking like a bad engine. Morales barely looked up when I stormed into the office, said, "Yeah. You saw him." Him. He told me the shaft had history. Some guy, back in the 70s, got locked inside during a fire drill. Nobody noticed for a week. When they opened it up, they found what was left of him curled up in the corner, nails ripped off trying to claw the door open. Shows up every now and then, Morales said, sipping his coffee like he was talking about the weather. Doesn't like being forgotten. I couldn't sleep after that. I kept showing up, but something had changed. Lights would flicker when I passed the shaft. I started hearing footsteps, wet ones, barefoot, just behind me. One night I turned a corner and found a goddamn handprint inside one of the mop buckets. I hadn't used it that night. I quit 2 days later. Didn't give notice. Just left my badge and walked out into the rain. Of course, no one believed me. The agency said I violated contract. That meant no more checks. No housing voucher. No food stipend. No job, no friends, no family. Now I live in a basement apartment with exposed pipes and silverfish. I do odd jobs for cash, write this junk on a cracked laptop I found in a dumpster, and try not to think about that goddamn elevator shaft. But I still hear the hum, sometimes, when I close my eyes. Still hear that voice. Down. And the worst part? Sometimes I feel like I never left that place. Like the shaft didn't just show me something. Like it took something. And maybe one day, it's gonna want the rest. This happened about 2 years ago, near the end of September. My aunt and her friend had flown up from Panama to visit my parents and me in New York. We were planning a simple little vacation, some movies, good food, nothing dramatic. Now, I've had my share of strange, even paranormal experiences growing up, but this night was different. This one left a deeper mark. And if I'm honest, a lot of weird things have happened to members of my family over the years, especially to my aunt and her friend. We'll circle back to that. It was around 10:30 p.m. My old neighborhood was quiet, practically dead after dark. I live near the countryside, and not much happens around there. The neighbors? Mostly elderly couples or families with small kids. Definitely not the kind of people to stir up trouble. The three of us, my aunt, her friend, and me, decided to stay up and watch a scary movie. My parents were already asleep upstairs. My aunt's friend was sitting by the sliding glass doors to the backyard, and my aunt and I were camped out on the couch near the front door. I was closest to it, left side of the couch, and my aunt sat to my right. We spent a few minutes debating what movie to watch and finally landed on Odd Thomas. Not super scary, but it was about a guy who could see spirits and demons, which, in hindsight, might have been a little too on the nose. 2 minutes into the movie, I felt this urge, like I needed to look at the front door. I glanced at my aunt and her friend and realized they were already staring at it too. It was like something invisible had reached into the room and told all three of us at once, look. We watched the door in silence for maybe 5 seconds. Then came the bangs. Bang. 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 3 of them. Each one loud and violent, like 5 people had body slammed into the door all at once. The whole frame rattled. For a second, I was sure the door would blow open. My first instinct was to run to the kitchen and grab a knife, but as I moved, my aunt grabbed my shirt and pulled me back down. Her eyes never left the door. Her friend, meanwhile, had curled up into a ball, knees to chest, rocking back and forth like she was trying to disappear. There are 2 small windows on either side of the front door. The right one had a curtain, a basic glued-on thing, attached at the top and bottom but loose in the middle. The left window was partially blocked by a decorative tree. When those bangs hit, the curtain puffed up. Not a sharp movement, either. It rose slowly, unnaturally, and then slammed flat against the window as if pressed by something from inside. And then, silence. None of us said a word. My aunt tried to downplay it, said it was probably just the wind. But I could see it in her face. She didn't believe that. None of us did. Still, we clung to that explanation because it was the only thing that didn't make us feel like we were losing our minds. I wanted to run upstairs and wake my parents, but the staircase was directly in front of the door. I didn't dare go near it. I texted and called them, but they were deep asleep and didn't respond. Eventually, the night passed. The next morning, I told my mom what had happened. Her reaction? Probably just a bear. Or maybe a deer. Classic. We went outside to check. Some of her front door decorations had been tossed off to the side, like they'd been shoved. But there were no scratches. No dents. No tracks. No broken frame. The door looked normal. Totally fine. But I knew what I'd heard. What we all had. Here's the thing, the woods are about 40 meters from the house. If there had been wind strong enough to make the curtain move like that, we'd have heard the trees swaying. But there was nothing. The night was completely still. And yet, somehow, all three of us knew to look at the door, moments before the bangs. It wasn't kids. I'd lived there for 3 years and never had anything like that happen. The neighbors were good people, and besides, those knocks weren't mischievous. They were angry. Like something wanted in. We tried to rationalize it. Maybe the impact from the banging stirred air that pushed the curtain. But it inflated slowly. And then slammed back. That doesn't make sense if the bangs came fast. My aunt had another theory, said maybe some wind had changed direction and was funneled toward the house, slipped through the cracks of the door. She also mentioned, quietly, that she saw a shadow pass outside. I didn't see it. My mother stuck to her theory about a deer. But, have you ever heard of a deer ramming into a front door 3 times? Full force. No scratch marks. No animal sounds. And our porch light was on. What wild animal walks straight up to a lit doorway in the dead of night, slams itself into it, and walks away? Let me tell you why this freaked me out more than it should have. My aunt and my mom, they've both had experiences. Weird ones. And her friend? When she was a kid, she used to suffer from severe night terrors. She'd wake up screaming, sobbing, saying she'd seen demons. Her family prayed for her every night until, eventually, it faded as she got older. That night, she was terrified. It was like something had followed her, like whatever had haunted her in childhood had come knocking again. And maybe this time, it knocked at my house. I don't know what it was. I hope it never comes back. But I'll never forget those 3 thunderous bangs. Or the way that curtain slowly rose, as if something on the other side of the door was breathing. Waiting. This happened a few years ago when I was still in high school. It was a Saturday night, and my parents were out of town for the weekend visiting family a few hours away. I had the house to myself. Most of the day, I just gamed, watched random YouTube videos, ordered food. Pretty chill. One of my boys came over for a couple hours in the afternoon, but he dipped before sunset. By around 8 or 9 p.m., I decided to take a shower and unwind a bit. It was warm that day, so I cracked open the upstairs bathroom window. Just enough to let a breeze roll through. I had music playing on my phone, nothing loud, just chill background stuff. Halfway through the shower though, I thought I heard something. Like a faint thump or creak. I couldn't tell where it came from, but it felt off. So I paused the music. I didn't even think about it, I just stopped the track so I could listen better. That was the instinct. For a few seconds, I just stood there in the steam, not moving. Listening. And that's when I heard it again. Something downstairs. Not a crash. Nothing violent. Just a soft, subtle noise, like faint movement. A slow step, maybe. The kind of sound that makes you question whether you even heard anything at all. I stood there frozen. Trying to rationalize it. The house does settle sometimes. Could have been the wind outside. Could have been the fridge kicking on. But then. I swear I heard another sound. A very slow, careful step across the floorboards. That one was clearer. I shut the water off, grabbed a towel, and cracked open the bathroom door. I didn't even dry off, I was still dripping, heart racing. The hallway was silent. Lights off. Just shadows. I walked slowly to the top of the stairs and leaned over to peek down. And that's when I saw something. A shadow moved across the floor downstairs. My breath caught. It didn't look fast or frantic, it moved smoothly, repetitively. Almost like it wasn't a person but something swinging back and forth. I stared for a second and noticed the blinds near the living room window were swaying slightly. The air from the open bathroom window must have drifted through. Maybe that was what I saw. That made sense. It had to be that. I told myself it was nothing. Probably just the wind blowing through, blinds casting weird shadows. Maybe even a neighbor coming home next door. You can hear a lot in this house when it's quiet. Still, something didn't sit right. I slowly walked downstairs. Didn't see anything or anyone. Everything looked exactly how I left it. But when I got to the front door, I noticed something that froze me again. The door was unlocked. I always lock that door. Especially when I'm home alone. I tried to calm myself down, maybe I just forgot after my friend left. Could have been me. But I was getting uneasy, so I checked around the house again. Living room, hallway, bathroom. Nothing. Until I walked into the kitchen. That's where I saw it. Sitting right in the center of the kitchen table. A red balloon. I just stopped cold. My heart dropped. It was tied at the base. No note. No string leading anywhere. No party, no decoration. Just one red balloon, sitting there like it had been gently placed moments before. I never owned that. My friend didn't bring it. I was home alone. I stayed frozen for a good minute. Just staring at that balloon. Then I grabbed the knife and ran outside, yes, with just the towel. I didn't have time to get dressed. I called the police. Tried to stay calm, but my voice was shaking. They showed up maybe 10-15 minutes later. I let them in. They searched the whole house. Didn't find anything. No forced entry. No one hiding. They asked me a bunch of questions, if I had any friends who might pull something like this, or if I gave anyone a spare key. I told them the truth, nobody else has a key, and I don't throw parties, I barely even leave the house like that. The cop nodded, looked around, and said something like, "Well, if someone came in, they didn't leave much behind, but we'll file a report. You should stay somewhere else tonight, just in case." I asked about the balloon. He looked at it for a second, kind of puzzled, then said, "Could be a message, or someone's idea of a scare tactic." That's all they said. They took down the basics, then left. But I didn't sleep that night. I locked every door, pushed furniture in front of the windows. Sat in the corner of the room with a bat in my hand till the sun came up. Barely moved. Kept every light on. I still don't know how that balloon got there. And that's what messes me up the most. I've done farm work my whole life, mostly cattle and a few goats. It's not glamorous, but it's honest, and you get used to the rhythms of it. You learn what normal sounds like out there, coyotes yapping, owls calling, even the bugs chirping like they on a night shift of their own. But one night, everything just stopped. And it's the kind of quiet that don't come naturally. It was late April, calving season again, and we'd had trouble with coyotes getting bold, coming right up to the edge of the pens. So I'd been taking the night shift, sitting out by the fence line with a thermos of coffee, a flashlight, and the two dogs, Ranger and Bo. Both well trained. Smart. If there was something near, they'd know before I did. We were about 2 hours into the watch, maybe around 2:15 in the morning. I was just starting to nod off when Ranger perked up. Ears stiff. Tail frozen mid-wag. Bo followed suit right after, no bark, no growl, just, still. Eyes locked toward the tree line past the south field. Now here's the part that got me, all the night sounds were gone. No bugs. No birds. No wind rustling the grass. Just dead silence. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat feel too loud. I got up, clicked on the flashlight. Walked slow toward the edge of the fence. I didn't see anything at first. Just rows of corn stalks swaying like normal, but then I noticed, only the ones closest to us were moving. Everything else was dead still. And in between them, something shifted. I am not saying I saw it clear. Not like a face or anything. Just, movement. But the way it moved wasn't right. It was low at first, then tall. Like it stood up from all fours but way too smooth. I caught a glint of something, might have been eyes. Might have been metal. I don't know. But the dogs, they started whining. Not like they were scared. Like they were begging me to go inside. Bo even pulled at my pant leg. I didn't ask questions. Just backed up, dogs tight at my sides, and went straight back into the farmhouse. Locked the door. Sat with the lights off, peek in through the blinds like I was expecting something to knock. But it never came. What did come was the morning. When we went out, there was a buck. Dead. Laying maybe 40 feet from the barn. Not mauled, not shot, just dead. No blood. No wounds. Eyes wide open like it saw something it shouldn't have. And tied to its antlers, was a red balloon. No string. Just tied neat, tight. Floating in the breeze like a joke left behind. We don't got no neighbors for 10 miles. No kids. Nobody's been to the property that we didn't know. And we sure as hell didn't put it there. Haven't seen anything since. But some nights, the dogs still go quiet. And when they do, I listen. I ain't making that mistake again. I used to work night security at this janky traveling carnival that set up on the outskirts of whatever small town would take us. You know the type, rusty rides, flickering lights, the kind of place that smells like grease, sweat, and cotton candy gone bad. My job was simple: make rounds after midnight, keep drunk teens from sneaking in, make sure none of the rides got vandalized, and report anything weird to the day crew. That was the gig. And for the most part, it was chill. Boring, even. Until we hit this one town last fall. The first night there, things already felt off. I swear, the air was heavier, like the whole lot was holding its breath. Rides would make noises when they were off. Lights flickered even when the power was cut. But I just chalked it up to old wiring and paranoia. Until the third night. That's when I saw him. I was doing a walkthrough around 2:30 a.m., flashlight in hand, when I heard something moving near the clown funhouse. This rundown, 2-story mess with painted faces peeling off the walls and mirrors that made you look stretched and broken. No one went in there at night. Not even the carnies. The movement wasn't footsteps. It was like, shuffling. Slow. Dragged out. I called out, "Carnival's closed. You need to leave or I'm calling the cops." No answer. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw him through the dirty plexiglass window. A clown. But not one of ours. He wasn't wearing a costume, it looked lived in. Faded colors, stained with something darker than dirt. He had a mask on, but it wasn't store-bought. It looked like it had been handmade, stitched together like burlap over bone. The mouth was too wide, sewn into this crooked smile, and the eyes, God, the eyes didn't blink. Just black, sunken holes. He stood perfectly still, facing one of the funhouse mirrors. Like he was watching himself. Studying. Mimicking. His head would tilt side to side like he was practicing how to be human. Like a messed up animal trying to fit into a skin it stole. I raised my flashlight, and I swear on everything, the reflection in the mirror didn't match. The clown was standing still, but in the mirror. It was grinning wider. Breathing. Moving. I backed away. My radio buzzed suddenly, static only, and when I looked back at the window, he was gone. I scanned around, flashlight shaking, and then I saw him again, on the second floor of the funhouse, behind one of the broken cutout faces. Just watching me. I should have left. I wanted to leave. But something about the way he stared made it feel like if I turned my back, he'd be behind me before I made it 5 steps. So I stood my ground. I yelled up, "I'm calling this in, man." He didn't move. I turned to grab my radio, and as soon as I did, I heard the creaking of the funhouse door opening behind me. When I spun around, no one was there. Just an empty hallway full of mirrors. I stepped inside, against every instinct I had. Flashlight scanning. I heard breathing. But it wasn't around me, it was in the mirror. I turned to leave, and all of a sudden the door slammed shut. Loud. Metal on metal. I ran back, pulled at it, kicked it, nothing. Locked. Then the mirrors started, laughing. No speakers. No electricity. But the laughter echoed, bouncing off the glass. Every mirror now showed him, the clown, behind me, but no matter how fast I turned, he wasn't there. Just the image. Until one mirror showed him closer. Then the next, even closer. He was getting nearer in the reflections, second by second, but never in the room. Just the mirrors. And then, I swear on my life, I felt a breath on my neck. Hot. Wet. Slow. I spun around swinging, flashlight in hand, hit nothing. But when I looked back at the mirror, he was gone. Then the door creaked open on its own. I ran out of that place so fast I didn't even notice I dropped my keys. Didn't care. I drove home that night and never showed up again. Quit the next morning over the phone. The carnival moved towns a few days later. But here's the part that still gets me. 2 weeks after, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, a photo of me. Standing in the funhouse. And right behind me, clear as day in the reflection, that same clown. Smiling. Hand on my shoulder. I was 16 when me and my friends, I'll call them Evan and Jake, decided to rent a hotel for the night since it was spring break. When we got there, the place smelled off, like something damp and old. But we were teens, so we didn't care, just happy to have some freedom. Around 3 p.m., we headed to the pool. It was in a separate building, a bit away from the main hotel. As we approached the entrance, we saw a man, tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches, wearing all black with his hood up. He was just standing there, staring. I felt uneasy, but tried to brush it off. We swam for a couple of hours, until we saw him again. He was sitting silently on a chair by the pool, still in all black, still watching. I tried to be polite, can I help you, sir? But he didn't respond. I dunked my head underwater to clear my mind, and that's when I saw it. Another figure, also in black, was under the pool. Not in the pool, under it. Beneath the floor. I screamed, panicked, and ran to the exit. When I looked back, both men were gone. My friends thought I was just imagining things. But I know what I saw. Later that evening, I went to a nearby restaurant to grab food and clear my head. I got a table for all of us, and there he was again. Same man, same black clothes, sitting across the dining room, staring at me. I stood up to confront him, but the moment I stepped forward, he vanished into the crowd. That night, back in our hotel room, we went to bed around 10:30. Sometime after, I woke up and saw a shadow at the foot of my bed. I calmed myself down, figured it was just my hat I left there. I fell back asleep. Half an hour later, I woke up again, thirsty. I reached under the bed for my water bottle, but instead of plastic, my hand wrapped around something soft, fabric. It was my hat. The thing at the foot of the bed wasn't my hat. I froze. That's when I felt breath on my neck and a voice whisper in my ear. "You should have left." I screamed. Two figures dressed in black grabbed me. I tried to fight, but they overpowered me. One of them covered my mouth, the other dragged me out of the room. Then, everything went dark. I woke up in a hospital. They told me someone had found me unconscious outside the hotel, injured. The wounds? Knife wounds. But no one ever caught the people who did it. To this day, I sleep with a nightlight. Just in case someone's watching. This happened just yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. I'm still not sure what to think. It was bizarre and unbelievable. Maybe I was just sleep deprived. It was around 11 p.m., and I decided to walk around my block. My town's relatively safe, and it was a nice night, so I wasn't worried. About 5 minutes into my walk, I noticed a pale woman with blonde hair and a white dress across the street. She looked about my age and height. I didn't pay her much attention at first. But when I circled the block again, I saw her on the same street, just a few feet ahead of me. She was standing on the curb, staring at the cars passing by. It's a main road, so even that late, traffic wasn't unusual. I said, "Hello." She turned toward me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I swear, her eyes had no pupils. No color. Just blank. I asked if she was okay. She didn't respond. Just pointed at the road. I didn't understand what she meant. But then a red car came down the road. And she stepped directly into it. The impact was brutal. A bloody mess. The driver, a guy in his mid-20s, slammed the brakes and jumped out, panicking. We both freaked out. He called the police. I went around the car to check on the girl, but she was gone. Not dead. Not unconscious. Just gone. Vanished. And the blood that had splattered on the road? It was gone too, except for what remained on his car. The cops showed up and treated the whole thing like some kind of hoax. Said I was probably confused, and the guy must have gone along with it. The blood on the car. Lab results said it was paint. Nothing else came of it. No charges. No further investigation. I still don't know what happened. It felt so real. I remember every second like it's burned into my brain. I don't believe in ghosts, but that night shook me. I've barely left my house since. Was it a dream? A hallucination? I don't know. But something about her eyes still haunts me. Like she was never really there to begin with. This happened in October 2004, when I was a junior in high school. After our annual Halloween party, a few friends and I stuck around school late into the night. One of them brought a Ouija board, and, like a bunch of dumb teenagers, we thought it'd be fun to try it. We found a spot under a big gnarly tree and started messing around. There were 5 of us, 2 boys, 3 girls. We'd heard the school was haunted, but had never seen anything ourselves. Since it was Halloween, we figured if spirits were real, this was our best shot. The school itself was an old Spanish colonial house from the 1800s, back when the Philippines was still occupied by Spain. The area we picked was rarely used, next to a creepy Jesuit house, mostly visited for bathroom breaks, storage, or sneaking off with your boyfriend or girlfriend. We circled up under a bare bulb hanging from a wire. It barely lit the space. We joked around a bit, throwing what-if ideas back and forth, typical dumb kid energy. My friend laid out the Ouija board. It was glow in the dark, which we all found hilarious, but at least it let us see the text in the dark. None of us had ever used one, so we just mimicked what we'd seen in movies. We each placed a finger on the planchette. Someone said, "What now?" No clue. So I just called out, "Is anyone there?" Another girl chimed in, "If there are spirits living here, please talk to us." Silence. One of the guys yanked the planchette suddenly. The girl who brought it screamed. We all cracked up. Still laughing, we reset and tried again. "If anyone's there, we'd like to make contact." "Don't break the circle," someone joked. "Shut up," I whispered. Then the wind picked up. The stillness shattered. Dead leaves and dust started swirling around us. Just coincidence, right? Okay. "Don't break the circle," I said again. "Is anyone there?" Now it felt like a scene out of a movie. "Guys, I'm scared," the girl next to me whispered. My mom told me not to mess with things we don't understand. We started tossing out random questions. "Did you die here? Were you killed during the war? Are you the headless priest that roams these halls? Do you know Jose Rizal? Are you a hottie?" Someone giggled. Still nothing. "This is bullshit. I'm done," one of us said. And honestly, we all agreed. Then, out of nowhere, 6 dogs from the nearby house charged the fence. Barking. Growling. Teeth bared. We screamed and ran like hell, never closing the ritual. We didn't see each other again until after Halloween break. That's when it got weird. One of the girls told us what happened the next night. She got home late, realized she forgot her keys, and called her brother to let her in. But he swore she'd already come home. He saw her walk in. Said she looked tired and went straight to bed. Creepy, but maybe he was tired, right? Then another friend chimed in. Halloween night, as she was walking up the stairs, the lights flickered, classic horror stuff. Then the door to her room creaked open, and a tall, shadowy figure stepped out. It stood at the top of the stairs, face hidden, just staring. She said she couldn't move, like dread froze her in place. "No way," said my best friend. "Because something happened to me too." He said he woke up in the middle of the night, feeling heavy, like the air itself was pressing on him. His vision was fuzzy, like TV static. Then he noticed something at his window, a charred, bloody face with glowing red eyes, grinning at him. And me? I almost died that night. After the ritual, I was asleep in our family's sedan while my mom drove us home. I woke up to a sudden jolt. We'd been hit by an oil tanker. The front of the car was wrecked, totaled. Somehow, both my mom and I survived without serious injuries. I still don't know what happened. Maybe it was all coincidence. Maybe our imaginations got the best of us. But I've never touched, or gone near, a Ouija board since. To put it plainly, I have no idea what the hell is going on anymore. A few days ago, my parents called to say they were coming to visit this weekend. That would have been totally normal, except they died in a horrific car crash with a semi-truck last year. Then yesterday, my little brother called me. He sounded shaken. I asked him what was wrong. This monster's been following me since Wednesday. I figured he was messing with me, but I asked him to describe it anyway. It has translucent white skin, walks on its knees, but its legs are long as hell. Yellow glowing eyes. This giant grin with dagger-like teeth. Long arms. Huge clawed hands. As he spoke, chills washed over me. I asked where he'd seen it. I was downtown getting food for my cat. I noticed something move in the parking structure across the street. I looked closer, and saw a face peeking at me from around a car on the 7th floor. That damn smile, man. It just stared. I didn't know what to say. I hung up quickly, told him I'd call back. Later that night, he called again, his voice even more rattled. I met the monsters last night, he said. I froze. What happened? I couldn't sleep for hours. When I finally did, I was woken up by this horrible scraping sound, like nails on a chalkboard. I sat up and looked at my window. Those yellow eyes were staring in. I couldn't move. It slid one long claw under the window and opened it. Then it crawled inside. I swear, I thought I was going to die. But instead, it picked me up. Gently. Like a baby. And then it carried me out the window. As we reached the forest, it stood up, off its knees. It was huge. Taller than the trees. It walked with this weird grace, like it wasn't meant to be so smooth, and then it started singing. It was one of Mom's lullabies. The voice sounded like hers, but layered, like 100 voices at once. It was beautiful, but so wrong. Next thing I knew, I was in a clearing. A massive bonfire in front of me. The creature was beside me, watching. Then a second figure appeared, even bigger than the first. It spoke in this deep, echoing voice. And it said, "My son, it has been far too long. Your mother and I have missed you dearly." And instead of fear, I felt warmth. Love. It held out a children's book, one Dad used to read us. As I took it, everything hit me all at once. I started blacking out. And before I lost consciousness, the thing said, "Tell your brother, we have a gift for him too." This happened to me about 7 years ago. I'm 20 now, so I was just 13 when it all went down. My parents had left town for a family emergency, and I was home alone for a few days. Now, I'm an only child, but I never really got scared being alone. Honestly, I was vibing, playing video games, eating junk food, doing the usual. It was the third night. Pretty late. I was in the zone gaming when I heard a knock at the front door. Now, we had these small glass panels along the sides of the door, and I could clearly see a man standing there. He was leaning in, trying to peek inside. Kinda hunched. Looked like he was in pain. Then I heard him yelling. "I'm hurt. Please, let me in." I paused, trying to figure out what I was even seeing. I asked what was wrong. "I broke my foot," he said. "Please, I need help." I asked how. He said he was just out walking around the neighborhood and tripped. Said his foot landed weird. It felt off, like it didn't add up. But he kept begging, almost screaming now. Then he said, "If you don't help me, and I get seriously hurt, I'll sue you." At that point I said, "Okay, I'll call an ambulance." Just stay outside. That's when everything changed. He snapped. If you don't let me in, I'll slit your throat and cut you into pieces. Instant panic. I grabbed the shotgun my dad kept on the highest kitchen shelf. I knew where it was, just never thought I'd need it. I also grabbed the phone and called 911. I told him the police were coming. They won't make it in time, he said. He ran toward the side of the house, toward the dining room window. I heard glass banging. He was hitting it over and over, like he was trying to break through. I could hear the window frame starting to give. I ran upstairs. Fast. Into my room. I slid under the bed, shotgun still in my hands, and whispered to the 911 operator what was happening. Officers are on their way, she said. And right after she said that, I heard the window shatter. He was inside. I heard him walking through the living room, then the kitchen. Opening doors, searching. Then footsteps coming up the stairs. My heart was pounding so loud I thought he could hear it. He opened my parents' room. Checked the closet. Then he came to my room. The doorknob rattled, locked. He started kicking. Once. Twice. Then bam, the door cracked open on the third hit. He stepped in. I saw his feet. I held my breath. He went straight for the closet, which I had locked on purpose, just to stall him. I know you're in there, he said. Now I'm under the bed, trying to figure out my move. Should I shoot? Should I try to run? Then I did the one thing I shouldn't have done. I shifted. Bumped my head. Thump. Loud. He turned immediately. Oh, trying to be a smartass, huh? I thought it was over. But then, sirens. From outside, getting closer. Loud. Ah shit, he said. You got lucky this time, but you won't the next. He turned to run, but I grabbed his ankle. He hit the floor hard. I held his leg with everything I had. That shotgun still in my other hand, but I just clung to him until I heard boots pounding up the stairs. Police burst into the room. Guns drawn, at me. I dropped the shotgun, hands up, yelling. He broke in. I called you. They grabbed him, cuffed him. It was over. Turns out, his van was parked right out front. Inside, they found rope, duct tape, a camera, and a whole collection of knives. Dude came ready. If I hadn't locked that closet, or grabbed the shotgun, I don't know what would have happened. My parents rushed home 3 days early. My mom hugged me so hard I thought she'd never let go. The guy ended up getting 15 years, with a chance of parole. No idea if he'll ever get out, and I don't want to. We moved out a month later. Took me years to sleep right again. I didn't spend another night alone until I moved out, and even now, I keep 3 guns in my house. Just in case. Back in 2016, I was 13 years old, peak creepypasta phase. I've been reading true horror stories and weird internet lore since I was 11, which honestly might have been a mistake. But by then, I was deep in it. I live in Carroll Island, out in Baltimore County. The place is full of forestry. Dense woods, trails, old urban legends, the kind of spot where you grow up hearing Goatman stories and rumors about teens going missing. Older kids used to scare the hell out of us younger ones, telling us not to wander too far into the trees. Meanwhile, teenagers were using the woods to smoke weed or drink. I never messed with that, but I knew the routine. This story happened around January, under a full moon. I can't remember the exact date, just that the moon was bright and everything had that weird glow. The whole clown sightings thing had already started dying down at that point, but every now and then, stories would pop back up. I never really believed in it. Still don't. That night, I was hanging out at my house with my brother, I'll call him Josh, and my friend Kyle. Kyle was from the Dominican Republic and believed in all kinds of paranormal stuff. We got along over that. We were in Josh's room, which was the biggest, watching Logan Paul's Suicide Forest video. Yeah, that one. When it ended, Kyle turned to me and goes, "You know it's a full moon tonight, right? The clowns come out on full moons." I laughed and told him it was all fake. Just dudes in costumes doing dumb stuff on highways. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "If you don't believe, they'll come for you." Josh started hyping it up, calling me a pussy and daring me to prove I wasn't scared. Kyle jumped in. "Then go prove it." So I did. There was this little unofficial park down the street. It wasn't funded, just a walking path and a small wooden bridge over Seneca Creek. We always called it the Duck Pond. But at night, that place was pitch black. To get there, you had to pass a stretch of woods with private properties and even some abandoned houses tucked away deep inside. I grabbed my bike, told them I'd be back, and rode 2 blocks to the park entrance. As soon as I pulled up, I got hit with this awful smell, rotting garbage mixed with dead animal. Not too surprising, there's a trash island nearby and, yeah, it's all wildlife. But still, it put me on edge. Then, I swear on everything, I heard a voice. Low. Almost friendly. "Hey there, kiddo. Why don't you come over here?" Instant chills. I froze. I'm not someone who scares easy, but something about the tone, it was off. I looked over and saw this shape crouched deep in the bushes. Couldn't tell what it was, human, clown, demon, I didn't care. My brain was screaming, "Do not move." I tried to shake it off. Took a step forward. Then it spoke again. "That's right, come over here." Then I heard it. That unmistakable sound, a blade being unsheathed. I didn't stick around to find out what it was. I screamed, crashed into my bike trying to mount it, and pedaled harder than I ever had in my life. I swear, if I hadn't been biking since I was a little kid, building up leg strength, I wouldn't be here telling this story. When I got home, Kyle said I burst through the door in total panic. Couldn't even speak. Took me a minute to calm down and explain what I saw. We talked about going back the next day to confront whoever it was, but of course, we never did. I haven't gone back at night since. Whoever was in those bushes that night, clown or not, if you're still out there, let's never meet again. So, this happened when I was about 12 years old. I lived in a quiet suburb in South Carolina, the kind of place where nothing much ever happens. I would spend hours walking my dog around the neighborhood because, honestly, there was not much else to do. My dog was Rufus, a huge basset hound, like a stocky, sawed-off Saint Bernard with those giant floppy ears. Not exactly a guard dog, more like a goofy, slow-moving giant. One late fall afternoon, it was starting to get dark, and I was way on the far end of the neighborhood, walking Rufus. That is when I noticed this beat-up, rusty red pickup truck slowly cruising around. At first, I did not think much of it. It is the South, pickup trucks are everywhere. But as I kept walking, the truck, that unmistakable sound, a blade being unsheathed, kept showing up. I would see it cross one street, then turn around and come back down another. The neighborhood was not laid out like regular blocks. More like a main road with a bunch of looping streets that all led back to it. By the time I was getting closer to home, and darkness was settling in, I saw the truck again, this time parked on the side of the road, facing the way I had come. I thought maybe the driver was lost, but then as I turned onto my street, the truck started moving again, creeping behind me, lights off. Here is the thing, Rufus was slow. Basset hounds do not walk fast. They kind of wobble with those big ears flopping everywhere. And he weighed almost as much as me, so I could not just pick him up and run. So there I was, walking down a dark road, with a slow, goofy dog in this creepy truck right behind me. I knew I could not run, and I doubted anyone would hear me if I screamed. So I had to think fast. When I hit one of the few streetlights on the road, I stopped. Turned around. Looked the truck dead in the headlights. The truck stopped about 30 feet away, just sitting there like it was parked, like it was trying to play it cool. I stared at it for what felt like forever, probably 2 or 3 minutes, not moving, just daring whoever was inside to make a move. Finally, the truck started up again, flicked on its lights, and turned down a different street. I did not waste a second. I sprinted into someone's backyard and took the backyards all the way home. Never told my mom about it, knew she would freak out and never let me walk Rufus alone again. But yeah. I was definitely being followed.
The first time we heard scratching from the floorboards, it was late September, and the air smelled of damp leaves and old wood. Our father had been gone 3 months by then. Not dead, at least not officially. Just gone. Walked into the woods behind our house one evening and never came back. My older brother, Cal, said he probably found a place to start over, someplace with no kids and no bills and no wife whose personality was shaped like a bottle. That left us with Mom, if you could still call her that. She spent most of her days in the cellar, where she said the reception was better. We didn't question it. She'd sit down there for hours, muttering into the static of the radio, chain-smoking until the whole house smelled like burnt paper and mildew. Sometimes we'd hear her crying. Sometimes laughing. Sometimes both. We stopped checking in. The house was falling apart by October. Paint peeled like dead skin, and the roof leaked onto the attic stairs. The only room that stayed warm was the living room, where Cal and I slept in sleeping bags zipped together for warmth. He was 16 and I was 12, and we hadn't spoken about Dad in weeks. Not since Cal found his boots out back, soaked in mud, laces tied together like a prank. It was Cal who first said it out loud, "Something's wrong with Mom." I wanted to argue, but I'd seen it too. The way her voice changed when she came back upstairs, too high, like she was straining to sound cheerful. The way she would stare at us without blinking for minutes at a time. Once, I caught her whispering to the air vents, like they were whispering back. Cal said it was the grief, or maybe the mold. But then came the scratching. It started low, barely there. We thought maybe it was mice. But it wasn't mice. You don't feel mice scratching inside your chest when you're lying in bed. You don't hear them whisper your name. One night, I woke to find Cal sitting up straight in his sleeping bag, staring at the floor like it had spoken to him. He didn't blink until I shook his shoulder. "We need to leave," he said. "We can't leave her," I replied. "She isn't her anymore." That was the first time I was afraid of my brother. Not because of what he said, but because he said it like a fact. Like he knew. The next day, Mom nailed shut the door to the cellar. "Things are getting in," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm keeping us safe." Cal didn't believe her. That night, he pried the nails loose while I stood watch. The cellar air hit us like a punch, thick with rot and something worse, something pungent and metallic. Like blood that had gone sour. We crept down the stairs, flashlights flickering. There were drawings on the walls. Not childish ones, these were intricate, painful things. Circles inside symbols inside spirals, all drawn in what I very much hoped was red paint. In the center of the room, an old radio hissed static. And beside it, something was moving, slow, rhythmic, like breathing. It was Mom. She was crouched by the radio, head twitching side to side. Her hands were pressed to her temples, fingers trembling. She didn't turn when we called her name. She kept whispering to the radio, words too fast and low to catch. Cal stepped forward. "Mom, let's go back upstairs." She turned then. Her eyes were wrong. One pupil was a pinprick, the other swallowed the iris. Her mouth opened too wide, and she exhaled a sound like water down a drain. "Don't open the hatch," she said. "What hatch?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Just kept repeating it. Over and over, like a broken record. The scratching grew louder. We ran. Cal nailed the door shut again. We didn't sleep. The next few nights, the house changed. Not visibly, but it felt different. Every sound had weight. The taps dripped blood-red rust. The curtains moved when the windows were closed. Cal didn't let me out of his sight. Then came the knock. It was 3 in the morning. We heard it from the living room. 3 sharp knocks, from underneath the floorboards. We froze. A voice followed. Childlike. Sing-song. "Calvin. Ivy. Let me up." I started crying. Cal held my hand and whispered, "It's not her." "I want to come up now," the voice said again. "I'm cold." We huddled in silence until sunrise. When we finally dared to look, the floorboards under the rug were loose. Not broken, lifted, like something had pushed them from below. That's when Cal showed me the journal. He'd found it weeks ago in Dad's closet. It was full of notes, scratched out passages about something he'd found in the woods. A hatch. Buried under roots and rotting leaves. He'd opened it. Inside, he wrote, "Something saw me." The last entry was just a sentence, "It can wear skin." Cal and I didn't talk after that. Not really. We just tried to keep the house locked up, tried to keep each other fed. Mom never came back from the cellar. Then yesterday, Cal vanished. I woke up and he was gone. No note. No sound. Just gone. I wandered the house screaming his name until my throat bled. I checked every corner, every vent, every locked door. I even pulled up the floorboards. Nothing. Last night, someone knocked again. "Ivy," the voice said. "It's me." It sounded like Cal, perfectly. Every inflection. Every pause. "I'm stuck," it said. "I need you to open the hatch." My hand went to the cellar door before I realized what I was doing. Something had called me. Something had used his voice. I didn't open it. Now it knocks every night. Sometimes it's Mom's voice. Sometimes Dad's. Once, it even used mine. "Ivy," it says, "I'm so scared. But I know better." Cal left me a final note, tucked inside his pillowcase, written in a shaky hand. "If you hear me, it's not me. Don't open the hatch." I won't. Even though it's knocking now, gentle and patient. Even though it's crying. Even though it just said my name in the exact way Cal used to when he tucked me in. I won't open it. Even if it begs. I won't. No one remembered bringing the talking bear into the shelter. It was just there one morning, slouched in the corner of the playroom, its fur matted and eyes dull like old marbles. We assumed one of the families had picked it up from a relief truck, maybe a leftover donation from a church drive. At first, it didn't seem unusual. Everything was a bit broken here, the walls, the kids, the quiet rules we all obeyed. Then it started to speak. "Hello?" It rasped, in a low, gravelly voice that didn't match its battered, button-nosed face. Luis was the first to notice. He was 6. He carried the bear everywhere, to the meal line, to the bunk room, even to the bathroom. He'd press the paw, and it would speak. Sometimes the usual things, "I love you," or "Let's play." But other times, "Luis," it said one night, after lights out. "There's someone in the vents." I was on cots across from him with my teenage sister, Camila. We thought he was pretending. A coping mechanism, the social worker called it. Trauma makes strange companions. But the bear kept talking. "Luis," it said again, every night after the lights were cut. "He's crawling closer." We tried to take it from him. Camila grabbed it one evening while he was distracted. The bear was heavier than it looked. She pressed the paw. Silence. Then static. Then, "Camila." She dropped it, scrambling back. "No way," she whispered. I picked it up. "It knows our names?" Luis just stared, his small face pale. "He talks to me when I'm asleep too." The next day, the vent in the boys' bunk room was open. No one saw who did it. The screws lay scattered on the floor like teeth. Luis said the man inside wanted to come out. He said he's almost done crawling. I begged the night staff to check the ventilation system. They humored me, climbed up with a flashlight. Nothing. Just dust and old insulation. But that night, the bear didn't speak. The vents did. Scraping. Slow. Deliberate. We told the others. Some laughed. Some looked too tired to care. Camila and I tried to throw the bear away. We shoved it into the old incinerator bin outside by the service exit. It was gone the next morning, back on Luis's cot, smelling of ash. That night, Luis didn't wake up. He was breathing, but he wouldn't respond. Eyes open, staring at the ceiling. The bear tucked against his side, paw resting on his chest. We couldn't pry it away. Camila shook him. Hard. "He's going to take him," she said. The vents groaned above us. We could hear something crawling in the ductwork, dragging, scraping, a sound like elbows grinding against metal. Then the voice, not from the bear, but from everywhere. "You tried to burn me." The lights flickered. Luis blinked. "He's here," he said. We ran. Out of the bunk room, down the narrow hallways, past the flickering exit signs. The shelter supervisor shouted after us, but we didn't stop. Luis wouldn't speak anymore. And then, on the 7th night, Camila vanished. No sign of struggle. Just her cot, neatly made. Her boots by the nightstand. And the bear. Sitting perfectly upright, staring at me. I tried to scream, but the sound got caught in my throat. The bear tilted to the side, as if listening. From the nearest vent, a whisper. "Now it's your turn."
Stranger is typing. Noah wasn't some cyber criminal. He didn't run VPNs through 5 continents or store his hard drive in a frozen, encrypted vault. He was just curious, too curious. It started the way most dumb stories do, insomnia and a late-night scroll through forums. One thread caught his eye, titled, "You ever talk to someone on Omegle, but on the deep web?" Most of the replies were fake, obviously, but a couple mentioned something different. A text-only site, no video, no usernames, just raw, anonymous chat. Random connections. They said it was darker than Omegle and more real than Discord. That night, Noah downloaded Tor. He sifted through dead links and broken directories until he found it, a nearly invisible entry buried beneath a list of flagged URLs. The site was called AbyssChat. It loaded in under a second, no colors, just gray monospaced text on a black background. At the top, it said, "You are now connected to a stranger. Say hello." weirdly polite. He typed, "Hey." The stranger replied, "Hey." Nothing strange about that. Boring, if anything. But the person typed like a real human, not a bot, not someone pushing gore links or ASCII pentagrams. They talked about movies, music, conspiracies, even paranormal stuff. It was more normal than he expected. 20 minutes in, Noah started to get bored. Leaning back in his chair, cracking his knuckles, he decided to stir the pot a bit. He typed, "I killed someone once. Bet you won't even blink." The stranger didn't reply at first. Then they typed, "Was it the girl in the blue hoodie? Behind the taco spot off I-90?" Noah went still. That was a little too specific, and scarily close to where he lived. He quickly replied, "Nope." But the next message came immediately, "What's the weather like on 13th Street tonight?" He closed the browser, yanked the Ethernet cable out, and slammed the lid of his laptop shut. Told himself it was just someone messing with him. Maybe a data breach, maybe some creepy GeoIP trick. No big deal. But just to be safe, he moved. 4 months later, Noah was in a new city. Landlord didn't even ask for a background check. Life got quiet again. No weird messages. No strange activity. Until one night, while working at his laptop, he noticed the red light. His webcam was on. Blinking. He covered it with his thumb, grabbed a roll of tape, and sealed it. Standing up, he glanced around his room, trying to shake the unease, and that's when he saw it, a small, wired camera embedded inside the air vent. Dusty, but clearly working. Heart racing, Noah tore through the apartment. He found cameras hidden in the smoke detector, the wall clock, even the decorative plant by his bed. All of them pointed inward. Watching. He ripped them out, one by one. But there was one he didn't find. The one left behind, for the viewers. Back at his desk, the laptop screen flickered on. He hadn't touched it. No browser was open. Yet Tor was already running. A video feed appeared, not from his webcam, but a fixed overhead angle of his apartment. Live. The curtain rod still crooked. Everything exactly as it was. Viewer count, 198. The chat was already moving. Black hourglass crinkle, he finally saw it. Gray flesh, ooh he's freakin'. Window blight, shoulda never typed that dumbass murder line lol. Noah slammed the lid shut again and rushed to the breaker box. He flipped every switch. The lights went out. But the fridge kept humming. The AC was still running. Power hadn't cut at all. Then came the knock. 3 soft, slow taps on the front door. Noah didn't move. He stood frozen, listening. Minutes passed. No follow-up. Eventually, he cracked the door open, hammer in hand. No one was there. Just a plain, unmarked box. Inside, a neatly coiled strip of duct tape, a spare camera lens, a length of frayed rope, a piece of his bedsheet, and a Polaroid of his bedroom, taken from above. He searched the place again, top to bottom. Nothing. Tried calling the cops. That's when he heard the second knock. This one didn't come from the door. It came from inside the apartment. Lowering his phone, he turned toward the wall. Something sounded hollow. He grabbed a crowbar, tore into the drywall, and pried it open. Inside was a crawlspace. Cramped. Cold. A single tripod sat inside, still warm. Noah didn't scream. Just dropped to the floor, breathing hard. Then his laptop powered back on. The tape had been peeled from the webcam. He hadn't touched it. The stream loaded automatically. Viewer count, 321. The chat returned. Bleed me, time for the main event. Stranger's back, he's watching himself. Poetry. Mod, camera angles good. Audio clear. Let it begin. Noah stood up slowly and turned. Someone else was already in the room. Not hiding. Not sneaking. Just standing there. Face covered. Knife in hand. Watching him. Noah backed against the wall, silent, hoping if he didn't move, maybe reality would glitch back into place. The figure raised a hand, not to stab. Just to wave. The laptop fan spun down. The camera zoomed in. Stream ends. Connection terminated. But elsewhere, tucked away in some hidden index of live channels, a new room appeared. Now streaming, room number 219, live feed, The Leftover. Ghoul_oven, what's next? Moderator, Red Room. Dion wasn't brave. Let's get that straight. He wasn't some hacker genius or a digital outlaw. He was just bored, broke, and too damn curious for his own good. Reddit rabbit holes led to Tor tutorials, which led to link dumps with names like Hell's Index and Widow's Directory. He clicked them anyway. Most of it was the usual crap: fake red rooms, hitman for hire pages with stock photos, counterfeit passports, snake oil miracle drugs. Dion didn't even have the guts, or the Bitcoin, to try any of it. But then he found something different. It was a plain sight. Black background. White text. No images. Just a title. Footsteps of the Forgotten. At first, he thought it was some artsy blog. But the catalog said otherwise. Shelley, size 6. Worn. 1-year term. $0.032 BTC. Marlin, size 11. New condition. 6 months remaining. $0.020 BTC. Aria, size 8. Bloodstains present. 2 weeks left. Discounted. Shoes. With names. For rent. Dion stared at the list. The prices were low. Lower than anything else he'd seen on the darknet. Some even had timers counting down next to them. He scrolled. Hundreds of names. Dozens of sizes. He told himself it was performance art. A prank, maybe. Some weird ARG. But he couldn't stop reading the descriptions. All items are active rentals. Expiration dates are final. We do not accept returns. We do not tolerate overdue accounts. One caught his eye. Jonas, size 10. Moderate wear. 1-year rental. $0.028 BTC. Same size as his. He shrugged, took a swig of flat soda, and clicked rent. The transaction was fast. The receipt simply read: Jonas has been dispatched. Enjoy your time. 3 days later, a cardboard box showed up at his doorstep. No return address. Inside were a pair of beat-up sneakers, gray, scuffed, soles worn thin. They looked normal. But the insides were warm, as if someone had just taken them off. Dion wore them that night. They fit better than any pair he'd ever owned. Weeks passed. Then months. Nothing happened. He even forgot about the shoes. They became his everyday pair. Comfortable. Familiar. He stopped thinking about the sight. Until the anniversary. It started with a sound. A slow, deliberate knock at the door. 3 times. Too firm. Too patient. He didn't answer. The next night, the knock came again. This time, it was at his bedroom window. 2nd floor. No ladder. Dion stopped wearing the shoes. He hid them in his closet. Then in the trash. Then he burned them in a steel drum behind the apartment complex. The flames turned green. But the knock returned. Always 3 times. He tried to sleep at a friend's place. The knocking followed. He moved cities. It followed. And one night, when he finally opened the door with a kitchen knife in hand, nothing. No one there. Just a box. Inside, a single shoe. Not his. Smaller. Blood on the toe. A note tucked inside. Jonas is reclaimed. Dion is now listed. He went back to the site. His name was there. Dion, size 10. Gently used. 12-month term expired. Currently available. He hit refresh. That's when he heard the floor creak. He turned his head slowly. The screen still glowed with his name, but the room behind him was no longer still. Another creak. Closer this time. He whispered, "Hello." Nothing. Then a shadow moved past the hallway. He barely had time to grab the knife. A whisper behind him. Then, a sharp pain bloomed in his ribs. He stumbled forward, the laptop crashing to the ground. The screen cracked, but not before he saw it change. Dion. Status, repossessed. The last thing he saw was a polished pair of gray sneakers stepping over his face. One still had ash on the sole. It started with the scratching. Not outside. Not even in the walls. It was inside his head, a sound, a presence, a memory clawing its way to the surface. Every night, Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart hammering, throat dry, as the weight of what he had buried years ago pressed down on him like a slab of concrete. He had moved cities, changed his name, cut ties. But guilt doesn't care about logistics. It had been 5 years since that night. The accident. The screaming. The silence. The cover-up. He had told himself it was self-preservation. That no one would have believed it was an accident. That it wasn't entirely his fault. But the nightmares, the anxiety, the isolation, they told a different story. So when a late-night scroll through obscure forums led him to a thread titled, "The Confession Booth," he clicked it out of impulse. The post was short. Cryptic. No priests. No judgment. Just the truth. Confess. Atone. Or pay. There was a link. He hesitated. Then clicked. The screen went black. A single white text box appeared. No branding. No buttons. Just the prompt. Confess. Atone. Or pay. Marcus stared at it, heart thumping. It was ridiculous. Probably some edgy art project or a troll's idea of a joke. But his fingers moved on their own. He typed everything. The car. The bottle. The silence. The lie. The life he stole. When he hit enter, the screen froze. Then, a new message appeared. Confession received. Your first task, leave a dead bird on the doorstep of 42, Maple Crescent. Before sunrise. Marcus blinked. He laughed. It had to be a prank. But then his phone buzzed, a new message from a number he didn't recognize. It was a photo. Of him. Sitting at his desk. Just now. His skin turned to ice. He didn't sleep. Instead, he walked the streets with a flashlight and gloves, eventually finding a lifeless sparrow beneath a park bench. 42, Maple Crescent was a 20-minute walk. He placed the bird on the welcome mat with trembling hands, then fled. When he returned home, the booth was still open. Task complete. You have 72 hours until your next confession. He stared at the screen. It was gone. No link. No window. Nothing. He wiped his history. Unplugged his computer. But deep down, he knew it wasn't over. 3 days later, his phone chimed at 3:33 a.m. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. Proverbs 15 verse 2. Your next task awaits. The booth was back. Sabotage the brakes on the car belonging to Daniel M. Details attached. Marcus's heart stopped. Daniel had been his supervisor at work, strict but fair. Not a bad man. Why him? He didn't want to do it. He typed "No" into the box. Hit enter. Failure to comply will result in equivalent damage to your younger sister's vehicle. Her route to work is familiar. A new window opened. A live video feed. His sister, asleep in her apartment. They told him that he cannot tell anyone. Marcus sobbed. Then he opened his toolbox. The next morning, Daniel's car wouldn't start. Someone had caught the damage before it became fatal. But Marcus didn't feel relief. Only dread. The booth returned with increasing frequency. The tasks grew darker. Send anonymous threats to a coworker. Leave a scalpel at a school playground. Set a dumpster fire and walk away. Each time he resisted, the booth retaliated. One night, he woke to find the words, "The wages of sin is death," Romans 6 verse 23, scrawled across his bathroom mirror in red. It wasn't blood. But it wasn't lipstick either. He moved apartments. Changed phones. Bought a new laptop. Still, the booth found him. He went to the police once. Told them someone was stalking him. They found no forced entries. No bugs. No cameras. But when he returned home, his email contained a video of him speaking to the officer, captured from a strange, overhead angle. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Luke 12 verse 2. He stopped sleeping. Stopped going to work. His skin grew pale, his eyes sunken. He looked like a man already dead. Then came the final task. You must choose. A. Confess your crime to the police and accept the consequences. B. Deliver a package to Mr. Silas Thorne, the estranged father of the person Marcus killed in the accident, who lives at 89, Timber Lane. Do not open it. Do not delay. Attached was a grainy, old photo of Mr. Thorne, looking gaunt and grief-stricken. Marcus's hands trembled. He typed back furiously. What's in the package? You have 12 hours to choose. If you do not decide, your sister will receive it instead. He tried calling his sister, but there was no answer. Then a message appeared. Confess. Atone. Or pay. With an image of his sister attached. He paced the apartment, screaming, crying, clawing at the walls. He couldn't go to the police. Not now. Not after the tasks. The booth had turned him into something worse than the man who once made a tragic mistake. But the victim's father? He couldn't do it. He wouldn't. At the 11th hour, he drove to the station and walked in. He confessed everything. The accident. The cover-up. The booth. The tasks. The threats. They locked him in a holding cell. He expected relief. Expected to feel like he had finally broken free. But when the detective returned, her expression was confused. There's no record of the website. No texts. No video feeds. We checked your devices. Blank. Wiped clean. What do you mean? Marcus asked, voice cracking. It's there. It's always there. We also looked into the address you gave us. That man, Mr. Silas Thorne, he died 2 years ago. Heart failure. broken after his child's unsolved hit and run. Marcus stared. His knees buckled. Later that night, alone in his cell, the lights flickered. The toilet gurgled. The walls seemed to breathe. In the darkness, his reflection shimmered in the stainless steel sink. The words appeared behind him, faint but unmistakable, written across the mirror with unseen hands. Confess. Atone. Or pay. Marcus screamed. But no one heard.
I manage an isolated power relay station in northern Maine. Something is tapping into the grid. I've been with New England Utility for over a decade. Most people don't realize how much of the region still relies on relay substations built back in the 60s. I'm stationed at Site 9A, deep in the Maine backwoods near no towns, no cell towers, and definitely no neighbors. It's a power relay and monitoring station meant to balance voltage fluctuations across the rural grid. It's not glamorous, but it pays well and keeps me out of the city. I work solo night shifts, 5 days a week. The job mostly involves monitoring voltage loads, keeping an eye on transformer health, and making remote adjustments. Boring stuff, unless something breaks. But last month, something started bleeding through the system. It began as harmless anomalies, voltage drops at station 12B that didn't align with demand. Frequency spikes in transmission lines that weren't feeding anything. Ghost data on the oscilloscope. Blips, noise. I chalked it up to aging infrastructure. But the weirdness kept escalating. About 2 weeks ago, I noticed a pattern. Every night at exactly 2:16 a.m., the same circuit, relay path C, would show a sudden spike. Not just a surge, but a complete rerouting of current. It only lasted a minute, but the destination didn't make sense. It was feeding power into a decommissioned line, branch 3 Delta. That line hasn't been active since 1997, when the hydro station it was linked to flooded and was sealed off. No demand, no consumption. I checked the logs. The grid wasn't acknowledging the draw, but the instruments weren't lying. Someone or something was pulling massive amounts of power from a dead conduit. The next night I tried tracing it. I pinged sensors up and down the 3 Delta line. Nothing. Dead. But just as the clock hit 2:16, the voltage meter flared to life. Then, this still gives me chills. The lights in my station dimmed. The kind of flicker you get when the load shifts hard. And then the intercom system, normally silent unless routed, crackled. 3 seconds of dead air. Then a voice. Low, wet, mechanical. Restore connection. Let the circuit complete. I froze. This system isn't connected to telecom. The intercom is hardwired, local only. I ran a manual diagnostic, and buried deep in the diagnostics log, there it was. A user login, timestamped at 2:16. User ID, operator_000. There is no operator 000. The next night I brought backup gear, an EM scanner, a frequency tuner, and a signal tap. At 2:10, everything was silent, still. Even the trees outside didn't move. At 2:16 sharp, the system surged again. And on the tuner, among the static, I caught something. Morse code. Dot dash fast, irregular. I recorded it, later translated it. Awakened. We are conduits. You are node. I didn't sleep after that. 2 nights later, things got worse. The cameras kicked on by themselves. The feed from Tower 3, overlooking the old switchyard, flickered into view. It was pitch black. Then, movement. A figure. Thin, pale, long arms, hairless, almost translucent, like an eel dragged onto dry land. It moved through the switchyard, stepping over cables without touching the ground. And then it looked up, at the camera, at me. It opened its mouth. No sound, but the screen glitched hard, red banding. A voice, overlaid on the station PA system now, cut through. Do not sever, Do not sever. Then the whole system crashed. Lights out, monitors dead. Only one thing stayed on. An old emergency panel with a rotary switch. It was turning by itself, clicking through channels, stopped on one marked resync. I yanked the main breaker and shut the place down for the night. In the morning, I checked the sealed hydro station records, found a personnel list from the 90s. One name jumped out. Operator 000, Nathaniel Ames. He went missing in 1997 during a system overhaul, last logged at Site 3 Delta, the same night the hydro flood occurred. The report said, body never recovered. Now every night at 2:16, the grid tries to reroute. And tonight, it's different. The voltage surge started early, at 1:58. The frequency on the tuner has changed. Now it's not Morse code. It's a voice, layered over static, repeating, "New connection verified, node established, final relay in progress." And the new circuit? It's not just feeding power anymore. It's drawing it out of here, from my station, from me. The air is buzzing. The floor is humming. I can feel something waking up in the wiring. There's a knock on the maintenance hatch, and I know I'm the only one out here. The day I put a price on my own head. I'm writing this from the corner booth of a diner just off I-15. If you're reading this, odds are one of two things has happened. Either I made it out, or I didn't. This isn't some diary or suicide note. It's more like a logbook for the game I started. A game I don't know how to win yet. But damn, has it been exhilarating. It all began 3 weeks ago, in the middle of another soul-shattering Monday. I was at my desk at a logistics firm I've worked at for 6 years. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, frozen spreadsheet on my screen, and my boss standing behind me pretending I mattered. I didn't. Nothing did. I wasn't suicidal, not really. I didn't want to die, I just didn't want to be anymore. Not like this. Routine, robotic, invisible. The thought hit me like lightning. What if someone hunted me, not out of hate or revenge, just contract? Later that night, somewhere between insomnia and YouTube spirals, I stumbled into the darker corners of the internet. I found a site called Quiet Exit. No logos, no pitch. Just a login page and a tagline. We resolve the unresolved. I messaged the admin with a fabricated story, said I needed someone eliminated, gave them fake details. They responded with frightening efficiency. Prices, methods, timelines, the works. That's when the idea crystallized. I'll give them me. I wrote back with new info. This target traveled often, changed appearance frequently, and was likely armed. I requested their best available contractor and wired over a large chunk of Bitcoin. Their final message confirmed the job and ended with this: there is no cancellation. Once the file opens, it closes only with blood. Exactly what I wanted to hear. The next morning, I quit my job in spectacular fashion, told HR to go to hell, shredded every report on my desk, and walked out without looking back. I bought a burner phone, a fake ID, and enough survival gear to vanish. I've been on the run ever since. The first week felt like a vacation, sleeping in motels, switching cities, changing plates. But the second week, that's when I noticed someone was following me. Not close, but steady. White truck, tinted windows, appeared in 2 different states 3 days apart. Coincidence? Nah. I've seen movement outside windows that shouldn't have been open. I've gotten silent calls from blocked numbers. The cameras I placed in the first Airbnb I stayed at, one of them went black for 27 minutes one night. Nothing stolen, nothing moved, just noticed. The rush is addictive. I check escape routes in every building. I sleep with my Glock under the pillow. I've memorized back roads and alleys like a rat in a maze. And every morning I wake up knowing someone is out there, actively trying to end me. There's no prize for surviving, no high score. Just the promise of staying one step ahead. This isn't a cry for help. This is the most alive I've ever felt. Oh, I shouldn't even be alive right now. We thought it would be funny. Me, Darren, Mikey, and Trey. 4 dumbasses with a GoPro and too much time. The plan was simple. Hide in the ceiling above the 3rd floor bathroom till closing, then spend the whole night running around Eastview Mall. 24-hour challenge, just like the videos. Pure clout bait. We knew the guard rotations. We scoped it out all week. Found the perfect hideout. The ceiling above the 3rd floor men's bathroom, right by the old Sears wing. Nobody goes there. You can push one of the loose tiles up, hoist yourself in, and boom, you're in the rafters. We laughed, ate snacks in the dark like we were invincible. So Friday night hits, and we go in around 6 o'clock. Brought snacks, battery packs, flashlights, got some pizza from the food court like it was just a normal night. Then one by one, we slipped into the stall and climbed up into the ceiling tiles. Whole thing felt like a joke. Mikey almost dropped the bag of Sour Patch Kids and we had to choke back laughs while some dude took a piss 3 feet below us. By 9:45, the mall was shutting down. You could hear the shutters coming down over store entrances. Cleaning crews making the rounds. We waited, whispering in the dark, our breath hot in that dusty crawl space. On Bureau 2's hits, lights go dim. Guards make their final sweep. We watch one dude through the vent as he yawns and heads toward the staff exit. That was our green light. For a while it was fun. Skating through empty halls, stealing sodas from vending machines, throwing paper planes off the 2nd floor railings. It felt like we owned the place. But then around 2:30 a.m., everything changed. The power surged. First just flickering lights, then total blackness. We thought it was a breaker or something. Trey tried the emergency exits, locked, not with chains. Welded. Alarms didn't work. The whole mall was dead silent, like it had been shut down longer than just one night. That's when the smoke started. We smelled it before we saw it. Thick, oily like burnt plastic. We ran toward the food court, thinking something was burning in a kitchen. But when we got there, the whole taco house was engulfed in flames, like someone had doused the place in gasoline. We panicked. Darren tried calling 911, no signal. Sprinklers didn't come on. We went back toward the main atrium, but the fire had spread. Fast, way too fast. The skylights above cracked from the heat. Smoke rolled down like waves. Mikey collapsed first, coughing, eyes swollen shut. We dragged him, but he wouldn't wake up. Trey tried smashing a window near the movie theater with a fire extinguisher. The glass didn't even budge. Darren screamed he saw someone moving behind the storefronts. Said there was a person just standing there in the smoke, watching. I didn't see anyone, just orange light and black shadows swallowing the whole floor. Then the ceiling collapsed. Something hit Darren. He didn't get back up. I ran. That's all I did. No plan, no direction. I hid inside one of the employee storage closets behind H&M. The smoke filled every inch. I wrapped my hoodie around my face and tried not to breathe. It took 30 minutes before I heard sirens. 30 minutes of fire, screaming, and things crashing that didn't sound like shelves or ceilings. When the firefighters pulled me out, I couldn't speak. My lungs were torn, my skin blistered. I kept whispering, "They're still in there," over and over, even when they told me I was the only one they found. That was 3 nights ago. They're calling it an accident, faulty wiring, gas leak, but they're also asking why I was in the mall after hours, how I survived when 3 others didn't, why there's no footage of us getting in, no alarm triggers, no door logs, nothing, like we just appeared in there. I told them the truth, about the ceiling crawl space, about the overnight challenge, about the fire, even about the person Darren swore he saw in the smoke. They didn't buy any of it, said I was delirious, in shock, maybe even guilty. They're investigating for arson now. Manslaughter, too. If they can prove I was trespassing and started the fire, even accidentally, I'm done. Mikey's mom already threatened to sue me. I heard Trey's dad say I was a liar to my face. And I get it. If I was them, I wouldn't believe me either. But I know what happened. I know what we saw. And if that thing is still in there, still trapped, someone else is going to end up like us. So I'm writing this now while I still can, in case I end up in prison. Or worse, in case I wasn't supposed to make it out at all. If anyone finds this, don't go to Eastview Mall. Don't break in. Don't hide overnight. That place doesn't just burn things, it keeps them. Back to Rottenwood. People think the scariest stories are the ones that end with blood, screams, or something clawing at the door. Nah, the real ones end with silence. With everyone pretending it never happened. With you sitting alone, still wondering if it was real, or if you just snapped. That's what I think about every time someone brings up urban exploration at a party. Every time some drunk sophomore pulls up a grainy video of an abandoned hospital or nuclear fallout shelter and says, "Bro, we should go." No, you shouldn't. I did, once, and I haven't slept right since. It started the way dumb stories always do, with a party, cheap beer, and some girl I didn't want to seem scared in front of. I was 20, barely 2 weeks into the semester. My roommate, Julian, had just finished telling some made-up story about sneaking into a water treatment plant when one of the girls, Casey I think, turned to me and said, "What about you? Got any stories?" I didn't. Not really. Not the kind you brag about. But I remembered something, a memory I hadn't touched in years. Not even therapy scraped it loose. It came bubbling up like a dead thing breaking the surface of a pond. "I used to visit this place called Rottenwood," I said. "It was my uncle's old hunting lodge. In the mountains, like 3 hours from here, totally off-grid. Place was a wreck even when I was a kid." They laughed at the name, Rottenwood. I don't blame them. It sounds made up. Julian raised an eyebrow. "You never told me that." I try not to think about it. That should have been the end. But Casey leaned forward. "Come on. What happened?" It all came out. The way the windows were all blacked out from the inside, the animal bones stacked neatly on the porch, the scribbled writing we found on the fireplace bricks, some mix of Latin, symbols, and what looked like claw marks. The giant pit out back my uncle used to say was an old well, but that I swear had stairs spiraling into the dark. No one believed me, but they laughed. They egged me on. One of them, Sierra, the tall girl in the flannel, said, "You should take us. I'd love to see something creepy." It was a joke, but I wasn't laughing. Because the more I talked, the more I remembered. The night my cousin John went missing. The search parties. The way my uncle stopped talking after that. Just sat on the porch with a rifle across his knees, mumbling about shadows that walk upright. They said he hanged himself 2 winters later. I never went back after that. But now I'd said too much, and by the end of the night, Sierra had roped Julian, me, and 2 others, Theo and his girlfriend Liv, into driving up there that weekend, just to check it out. They brought weed, a disposable camera, and an old tape recorder to make it more authentic. I brought a crowbar. We got to Rottenwood Lodge just after 10 p.m. The drive up was slow. The GPS cut out about 30 miles from the site and I had to go off memory. But there it was, the gate, rusted and twisted, half sunken into the dirt. Past that, the long, winding road covered in leaf rot and broken branches. The house was still standing, just barely. Shingles torn off, porch half collapsed. Black gunk around the doorframe like mold, only it pulsed when you looked straight at it. Sierra whistled. "This is the place?" Julian took a swig from the flask. "Looks like a meth lab. I love it." Inside it was worse. Cold, despite the season. Floorboards bowed inward like the whole house was breathing. Furniture coated in gray fuzz. Dead insects everywhere, but no cobwebs. No spiders. Just flies, all dead. Some in midair like they got stuck and froze. No one else seemed to care. We found the fireplace. The symbols were still there. Sierra snapped a photo. I told them we should go. They told me to lighten up. Theo was the first to find the basement hatch. It wasn't hidden, just wrong. I don't know how else to describe it. The handle looked new. The wood around it didn't rot like the rest of the house, like something used it often. I swear to God, if this place has a murder dungeon, Liv joked. Julian yanked it open. The stairs down were stone, not wood. Too clean, no dust, like someone had just walked up. We went down. I didn't want to, but my feet moved anyway. It was colder below, quiet. Not even wind, just the sound of our breathing and the occasional drip, drip, drip of water from the ceiling. We passed a room with animal cages, another with broken TVs stacked floor to ceiling. Each screen turned toward the center of the room, all shattered. Then we reached the room with the pit. I hadn't imagined it. It was real. A hole in the ground about 15 feet wide, with stone stairs spiraling down into pure black. The tape recorder buzzed in Sierra's hand. Liv's phone screen cracked on its own. "Okay," I said. "We're done." But Sierra was already walking toward it. Julian too, like they didn't hear me. I swear it wasn't me, I didn't push them. But something changed in the air. The lights from our flashlights bent like heat waves. The sound dropped, not muffled, gone. Like someone pressed pause on the world. Then Sierra screamed, and everything went to hell. Julian vanished first. 1 second he was behind me. The next I heard him yelling from inside the pit. But it wasn't him. It was his voice, warped, looped, like a recording played underwater. Then it cut out. Liv started clawing at her face. Sierra's flashlight exploded, and something came up the stairs. Not fast, not loud, just there, filling the space. The walls bowed inward, as if they hated the thing in them. Its shape was wrong. No eyes, no mouth, just a slick, shuddering mass that pulsed with breath. I grabbed Sierra, hauled her back. We ran. I don't remember how we got out. I remember Julian's voice whispering from behind the walls. I remember the way the house didn't want us to leave, how the door led to a hallway, then to a bathroom, then to the basement again. We broke a window, climbed out, ran into the woods, slept in the car. We drove back at dawn. No one said anything. Theo was shaking so bad we had to pull over twice. Sierra cried the whole drive, but silently, tears streaming without sound. Julian was gone. Still is. I told the cops what happened. They chalked it up to drugs. Said Julian probably wandered off, maybe fell down a ravine. Case still open, but they've stopped calling me. The lodge burned down last spring. Firefighters said it was lightning. I saw photos. The pit is gone, sealed up, buried under ash and mud. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the recorder, that buzzing, the sound before she screamed. So yeah, that's my funny story. Don't go back to the places your memory keeps locked away, especially if it's calling you back. Some things rot for a reason, and some things rot because they're still alive.